Welcome, everyone, to the RDH Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Chad, and alongside me is Tanner. It's time for the Hanks clan to take over the sports world. How's it going, dude?
It's good. It's good. It's good Wednesday afternoon. I'm chilling.
There you go. There you go. Our new schedule, we're probably going to start recording on Tuesdays for the listeners. Obviously, we have a new member with Tanner, new branding of the pod with RDH Sports, so we're going to change it up a little bit. Keep the changes coming. We are going to start recording on Tuesdays now, and the episodes will most likely be live on Wednesday mornings or Tuesday. So just to let all the listeners know, this pod is a fun one for you. So Tanner's going to cover briefly the Champions League because the Champions League started in soccer. It covered the most recent UFC fights last weekend, Adesanya versus Pereira. Tanner's going to cover the NBA play, and he's going to talk about some games. There's actually a live game going on right now, and we're recording. I'm going to briefly cover the Masters because there was a good old Aggie that was an amateur that was second on Friday, and we can't not hit that gigs. And then what's going to take up most of the episode and what pretty much every one of my readers and listeners over the years waits for is my first round mock drafts here, and I'm going to add a second round to that. I don't know if we'll do a pod on the second mock, but you can check out the articles at rdhsports.net. So let's go ahead and jump into it, Tanner. Me through the Champions League.
Yeah. So Champions League, it's down to 8 teams left, and I'm just gonna go through and say the matchups of teams that are remaining. So Man City and Bayern Munich played yesterday. Man City won 3-0. That was pretty convincing. I actually watched a little bit of that game, not a lot. Um, Holland's doing his thing. It looked like
He broke the record.
he did break the record. He did break the record. I think it was most goals in all competitions. So that's really cool. That's really cool. And I saw a graph that was actually like comparing his start just as a player compared to specifically in the Champions League as a
Hmm.
player compared to like Ronaldo, Messi, and a lot of like other greats. And his trajectory is like he's on course to beat all of them by a lot if he
By a
continues
lot.
in this goal scoring form. So
By a lot.
he's he's a real deal, and if you didn't think so, you're just wrong. As I'm sitting here with my United jersey on, uh, I hate. He's a really good player. He's a really good player. Um,
Is the United, is that what's the I don't even know. Who do you have on the back of your jersey?
I got David Beckham. This is from
Oh my
19.
gosh.
Like I'll look at it. You can look at it a little bit. Um,
There you go. There you go. Everybody on YouTube is showing us the jersey. That is, I'm sorry, I had to jump in. That's a clean jersey. For everybody that's listening
yeah.
to us, I'm fanning out over Tanner's soccer kit he's got on. Anyway, Tanner, keep going with Champions League.
I mean, just the jersey is the 1998, 1999 kit, and I really liked it because it has the sleeves and it's got this cool design on the right
Yeah.
side and the left
That's
side.
dope.
So I mean, just here's a better look.
There you go.
Anyways, um,
Bend it like Beckham.
exactly. But let's go on to the next matchup. So Inter Milan played. I always butcher the name, but Benfica or something. I don't know.
Oh gosh. I couldn't even help you there.
But they won 2-0, so they're off to a good start. Same with Man City. And that was all of yesterday's matches. Inter Milan, they're a good team. They're a good team, and I
Yeah.
kind of expected them to win that. So we'll see what happens in the second leg for that one. But that one's still kind of close if you want to come back. But
Yeah,
t-
2-0 is not too hard to come back from. I
it's
mean, it is, and it is, it
it
is.
is,
It is,
but
but
it's
it's not
better
out
than
of the world of possibilities.
yeah, it's better than 3-0. I've seen crazier things happen. But next up we got Milan, and they played Napoli. And this was actually the match I really wanted to watch, but I wasn't able to watch it because, I mean, I'm pretty sure, yeah, they're in the same league, so they're in this Italian league, and they play each other, a
What's
lot.
Series A? I think Italian Series A.
Yeah,
If I have to, I'm pretty sure it's Series A. Keep
yeah.
going.
But it was 1-0 for Inter, for excuse me, for Milan, and
Yeah.
it was good. It was good. I watched a little bit of it towards the end, but not a lot. Um, but that's going to be an interesting series. So if you're going to watch any of the
Yeah.
Champions League matches, watch that one. The final one, Real Madrid played Chelsea. Real looks good. They won 2-0. First
Real
leg.
looks really good.
They are on pace again, to win it again. So that's probably my
Always.
favorite.
They always are. And you look at those matchups too, right? And you have a lot of those teams that aren't necessarily a Champions League returner. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even know if some of the, I mean, obviously these teams have made the Champions League before, but going this far into the Champions League, I feel like it's not one of those years where you have all of these superstar clubs. You actually have a couple clubs in there that are making great runs, right? And you do have some clubs in there like Byron, right? Like Man
Yeah.
United, like Real Madrid, like Chelsea. You have those clubs that are absolute powerhouses that have so many stars on their team. But what's crazy to me is it hitting back because I'm going to touch on this before we move on to the UFC fights. If you're done covering Champions League, Tanner, is Holland.
Yeah.
I don't understand what happens when you go from playing in the Bundesliga because he played for is it Dortmund?
Yeah, he played
Right?
for
Yeah,
Dortmund.
played for Dortmund and was pretty good at Dortmund, but was nowhere near what he is right now. And I mean, he's most in history. Like he just scored the most goals in history, 45 goals. And a kid that's that young, coming from a league that you could say is a step down,
From the yeah,
it
absolutely from the Premier League, 100%.
in in what it brings you back to is my own selfish fandom in PSG because I'm always going to bring it back. It brings you back to being a fan and thinking Mbappe going to go to that level because realistically, there's two young superstars in the league right now in soccer that if you were going to build your team around, I feel like 90%, maybe not 90%, that's probably way too high, but people would think Holland or Mbappe would be a cornerstone of that team. I feel like any team would want them. I saw some hesitation there, Tanner.
I
What
mean,
do you think about that?
I think about it is the thing about it is like I think you're right. I think you're 100% right with Mbappe because Mbappe is just one of those special players that he just creates openings, he creates goal scoring opportunities, and when he's not doing that, he's putting his teammates in better positions, right?
Mhm.
And I think that that's just super valuable. Like if we go back to the World
Yeah,
Cup, I mean, he was one of the best players on the pitch just in general, right? I mean,
yeah.
Mbappe was the reason they won like half those games. So, and go back to the World Cup before that when they actually won it. France did. I
He was
mean,
like 18 or like
exactly.
20. 20. He was so young.
And
He
he's
wasn't 21.
still super young. And I
Yeah.
think you're right. I think you're 100% right. I don't know if I think at this current moment maybe Holland's probably one of the better players. I don't know. In the world probably,
I
just
mean, he has to be. He scored the most goals ever. Like
in a season,
in
yeah.
in the first year in the Premier League,
That
mind you.
in yeah, it's the Premier League. It's not like
Nobody
slack
thought
league,
he would do that.
you know?
Yeah, nobody thought he would do that.
I was yeah, it was yeah. It's fucking Holland, man, like it's
I
Holland.
know. I know.
You can't
That
say
dude
anything
is
about it.
just watching him play is incredible.
I just
And
love he
him
just
and
like
Mbappe are the exact opposite.
I
I
know.
mean, like the exact opposite.
Holland just like runs through people, and Mbappe
Oh
just
yeah.
like he's super just technical with his abilities.
Oh, he's one of the most technical players I've ever seen. Well, are you done with Champions League, Tanner?
Yeah, yeah, I think that's about all. But
Okay, that
let,
sounds.
let me say one thing though. I'm gonna
Yeah.
say the semifinals, if you're gonna catch the or not the
Oh
semifinals, the
yeah.
next leg.
Who do you got to win the damn thing?
I probably either City or Real Madrid. I think those two
Okay.
teams look the best. City, just because they're good, man. They're good. They're gonna
Oh, I
take it.
know.
They're
It's
finally
hard.
gonna take it. If you want to watch it, the next matches are on the 18th and the 19th of this month, which is a Tuesday and a Wednesday. So it's basically next week, the same time.
There you go.
So that'll be really fun. That'll be really fun.
Yeah.
But do you want to move on to
Tune into
UFC?
those. Yes, I'll move on to the UFC. And Tanner we were just talking about how technical player Mbappe is, football player, and we're gonna go to the most technical sport ever. And this is new to I'll say Chad Bread Talk Sports for RDH Sports. But fans, I have not really covered UFC too much. Just briefly hit on it every now and then. I am getting very big into martial arts in my later years. In my early years, I took Taekwondo. Now I'm in California taking jiu-jitsu, and just watching these fighters is unbelievable. These guys are incredible athletes, and why I brought up jiu-jitsu is because we had this kid named Raul Rosas Jr. And he fought Christian Rodriguez, and we're just starting at the card. We're just starting when the card started. We're not going to talk about all the prelim fights, but Rosas Jr. is supposed to be the next big thing. He's pretty sure he's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I think he's 18, 19 years old. Signed a contract to the UFC very recently, within the last couple of years, if not literally this year, and got tore up.
Really?
Tore up. Christian Rodriguez is 9-1. Rosas Rodriguez Jr. is 7-1. So the records aren't that different. But the thing about UFC, for everyone that isn't an avid fan, is that there's a difference when you have a ton of UFC fights under your belt, and then you have a other league or non-professional fights under your belt. Christian Rodriguez just had more fights under his belt and was just the more seasoned fighter and dominated. I mean, there wasn't even a round. Rosas Jr. couldn't even take him down. And you do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and you're an expert in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. That is what you do. You take your opponent down and you put main goal is to fight on the ground. That's the main goal. Because in a street fight, anybody can win. To the ground, you're in trouble. It's like wrestling, right? American wrestling, right? We watched wrestling growing up. Well, I did with Dad. And we watched college wrestling. And it's similar with jiu-jitsu. It's extremely technical. And he got picked apart in this fight and he lost. And it wasn't even close. Moving on to the next fight, we have Kevin Holland versus Santiago. I'm not even going to try to say that. I'll try it. It's going to be bad. Ponzinibbio. I think it's Ponzinibbio.
That's good.
Santiago's a season. I think I nailed it.
That's a good attempt.
He's a seasoned fighter. He has 37 fights in the UFC. Kevin Holland is one of the most exciting fighters I've ever watched because he takes fights on short notice. He fights, it feels like every 3 months. Usually you have fighters that only fight 2 times a year, usually, and even then some of the fighters only fight 1 time a year, but the big fighters are only going to fight 2 times a year. And you have Kevin Holland, who is literally fighting like every 3 months, every 2 months, and steps into a fight on a week notice. It's crazy. There was his last fight, I don't remember who it was with or who it was against, but they in the arena they said no takedowns. All they did was stand up and strike. And for those of you who aren't MMA fans, MMA is everything. Mixed martial arts. Jiu-jitsu, you have wrestling, you have boxing, you have Thai, you have kickboxing, you have everything. You have everything into one. And it's the UFC, it's the Ultimate Fighter. And when you have a fighter of that magnitude and he has that much style, it is so much fun to watch this kid. And he tore up Santiago in the 3rd round. I thought it was going to be a little bit earlier. He got him by knockout. And moving on to the next one, this one wasn't a fight that I was necessarily excited for, but I didn't know a lot about these guys going in. So we had Rob Font and then we had Adrian Yanez. You had Rob Font, who is more of the seasoned fighter, and he came in and knocked him out. I think it was round 1. It was super early, caught him with a really, really heavy shot and got him. Was just put him to sleep, pretty much. Almost put him to sleep. It was a great fight, super quick. And then the co-main event, Gilbert Burns and Jorge Masvidal. And Gilbert Burns is a warrior. He is one of my favorite fighters. He's 22-5 in the UFC from Brazil. And you have Jorge Masvidal, who's 35-17 in the UFC. If you ever know who Kimbo Slice is, Jorge Masvidal was the guy in those fights that they fought in the backyard. They would bare knuckle box in the backyard, and Kimbo Slice and Jorge Masvidal did that. They were some of the most famous backyard brawlers back in the early YouTube days, dude, in the early 2000s. When I would watch those backyard brawls, because that's what got me into the UFC was those backyard brawls. And you're watching him be in those backyard brawls, like you're watching a guy that's with his nothing. He just his hands in a backyard and just wailing on him. So the power is there already, right? The power's automatically going to be there no matter what, right? Then you have Gilbert Burns, who's a young fighter, but who's very good. And he is a black belt also in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And you thought that Gilbert Burns was going to take him down, but he didn't. He stood up with him, traded with him, and luckily took it to the unanimous decision. I think there was a couple times where Gilbert could have put him away, but Jorge retired from that fight. It's the main reason I wanted to bring up this UFC, because I've been watching him, like I said, backyard days, and great pioneer of the sport, great competitor. Don't mess with the guy is all I have to say. And really glad that I got to watch his fights from being a kid to literally now. And then you have Gilbert Burns, who is, like I said, I think he could have put him away a couple times in the fight. There was a couple times where Jorge was bobbing and moving, and Gilbert just didn't have the heat seekers in the right spot. But it was close to lights out. And then you went to the championship fight. You had Alex Pereira, who's a kickboxer, who is, I don't remember where he's from. I know he's from Brazil, but he has a like a tribe. His family has like a tribe in Brazil, and he always comes out in his tribe, and he's so intimidating.
That's
And he's
so
a
cool.
professional. He's a professional kickboxer, and he has fought Israel Adesanya, who is known as the Style Bender. And the Style Bender, if you ever get in the UFC, Tanner, this is your guy to watch, because he is a king. After the pod, go watch just type in Israel Adesanya, and he does the anime and does all the signs and stuff in
It's
his
kinda cool.
fights, and he takes it super seriously,
Oh, so
super seriously.
he's just he's like putting on a performance, but not.
Exactly. He's putting on a performance, and that's why he's one of the most dominant middleweights of all time. Most dominant middleweights of all time.
That's pretty
But he
cool.
fought Alex Pereira last. This is the second fight they've had in the UFC. They fought each other 4 times. Or five, I think 5 times now. I think it's 5 times. But they fought each other in kickboxing way back in the day. I went back and watched that fight. Pereira got the decision, but I don't think he should have won that fight in the early days in kickboxing, and then knocked Israel Adesanya clean out in a kickboxing match. Knocked him clean out. And then Pereira came over to the UFC in his not his first fight, but very, very close to first fight in the UFC was a title shot. So he jumped everybody else and went straight to the top and cracked Izzy.
Oh, really?
Took him down.
Dang.
He in the first round of the fight, Izzy, we're talking about not the most recent fight, the fight before, Izzy versus Adesanya, the first fight in the UFC.
Yeah.
And Izzy had him beat in the first round. He was more technical. He was technically winning throughout the fight. Izzy was. But Pereira has this walk where he walks you down. And he walks you down, and he's so much bigger than he's supposed to be. I think it's 185 is middleweight. There's no way that guy's 185. There's no way. He walks around at like 225, cuts like 40 pounds to get to 185. He's huge, dude. And he's terrifying. He's just scary looking. He hit Izzy with a couple heat seekers, with a couple good uppercuts and jabs, and he also compromised Izzy's leg. UFC, a big thing is leg kicks, calf kicks. And you compromise because you can't use any of the power on your legs. And in martial arts, just in general, all of your power comes from your legs when you're striking. So he hurt Izzy's legs, which compromised Izzy bad. So that fight, I think if it would have gone to the decision, Izzy would have won it. But Pereira, they stopped the fight. It was a TKO because Pereira was about to knock Izzy out, I think, and the ref stepped in. Come to the second fight this past weekend, I honestly didn't know. I honestly didn't know who was going to win the fight, because the thing with Izzy is the one of the most technical fighters I've ever seen in my life. Will probably go down as top 5 most technical fighter of all time.
Wow.
In my lifetime, I don't see anybody anywhere close to Izzy in terms of technical fighting. And that's why he's so good at striking. But so is Pereira. And the thing is you can't get hit by a lot of the shots that Pereira hits you with. Izzy hits you with a lot of shots. But the thing is Izzy's going to measure you, he's going to time you, he's going to clock you, and then once he figures you out, you're done. There's nothing you can do. He's going to get you with a shot you don't see coming, because he has style and he's a kickboxer. So they went into round 2. Dude, Izzy knocked him unconscious.
Wow, really? In round two?
Round two, Izzy knocked him completely unconscious in round two, and shot 3 arrows over him as his celly when he was laying unconscious on the ground. One of the sickest cellies I've ever seen in my life.
That's pretty
I
cool.
would never do that ever to Pereira, because that is like one of the scariest men that walk planet Earth. That guy is terrifying.
Yeah.
And what happened is I was talking to my Samoan friend who I've known my whole life. His name's Don. He's a huge UFC guy. He's taught me a lot of about UFC, what I know, and was also one of the main reasons I got into it. And he was the guy right next to me watching those bare knuckle fights. But the thing about it is what happened is it was very simple. Pereira got too comfortable in Izzy's pocket. And what that means is what happened is Izzy he was back up against the cage and hit him with a shot. And he hit him with a shot, and it looked like it stunned Izzy. And in the UFC, what typically happens is if somebody's stunned, the other fighter's going to jump in on that, right? They're going to jump in because they want to end the fight. So Izzy almost looked like he got stunned, kind of blocked up and postured up, and Pereira kneed him, got him in the cheek, and then Izzy out of nowhere just left hook, right hook, boom, out. Pereira's out. Hit him.
Quick.
One of the cleanest knockouts, one of the best knockouts I've ever seen. Go check it out if you haven't on YouTube yet. But baiting him. And what's crazy to me, and why I say this sport is so technical, imagine you're in a cage with another human being with 50,000 people around you screaming, right? Can't hear anything, right? This guy, it has you up against a cage where you are covering your head, try to not get knocked out. You have the ability to know where he's throwing his punches, because obviously you can feel them, but then counter his punch with the perfect punch. This man out with 2 shots. When he
Impressive.
thinks he's winning and he's in your pocket, like Don said, that it's so technical and it's so crazy, but that's everything with the UFC. I just wanted to cover it. Clearly, I'm very passionate when it comes to something that I'm doing, and I'm in jiu-jitsu, so we're going to talk about more UFC. So if you're a UFC fan, your prayers have been answered. Next, we're talking about the NBA play-in, Tanner.
All right. Well, the plan. So I want to describe the structure kind of the plan because I know it's kind of confusing.
Yep.
But essentially, what it is in the West and the East, the 9th place team and the 10th place team play, and the 7th place team and the 8th place team play.
Okay.
Those are the spots, and that's how you get into the play-in, right? And in the actual playoffs, there's only 8 seeds, so they have to, out of these 4 teams, get 2, right? So the 9th place to 10th. So I'm going to go through those. So those 2 9th and 10th games are happening today, and we don't know the results of one of them. But right now it looks like the Raptors are up 9 on the Bulls at the end of the 3rd. So that'll be interesting. We'll probably have the result by the end of the podcast.
Yeah, no lie.
The other 9th and 10th place game is the Thunder and the Pelicans. And probably what's significant about this game is whoever loses this game is out of the playoffs, right? The winner goes on. Exactly. So the winner goes on, and they will play the loser of the 7th and 8th place game. So in the 7th and 8th place game, that's the one that happened yesterday for the 2 conferences. The Hawks and the Heat played. The Hawks they won by 11, and they kind of dominated the whole game. I didn't watch a lot of it, but it kind of seemed like the Hawks were on top the entire time. And the Lakers and the Timberwolves played, and they went to overtime. And that game I did watch. That was fun. That was super fun. And I mean, the Timberwolves, honestly, they looked like the better team for a majority of the game. But towards the end,
The Lake Show
came back. The Lake Show came back. They tied it up, and it was kind of a crazy ending to go into overtime. It was, I don't remember what happened, but the Lakers had the ball, and they gave it to LeBron, like 17 seconds left. LeBron kind of draws like the entire defense, as he does, because he's LeBron James, and he draws it all. And most people think in that situation, LeBron's going to take the shot, take the buzzer beater, like he always does.
I did.
I thought he was going to as well. He kicks it out to the corner. Dennis Schroeder sitting there, bang, three, and they're headed to the winning to the playoffs. But guess what? There's a couple seconds left on the clock, and so the Timberwolves go down, and I don't remember who has the ball, but or I don't
I think it was
specific.
Ant.
Was it Ant? I don't know, but
Might have been Anthony Edwards. I thought
it,
he did.
it might have been. But Anthony Davis fouls someone. I don't remember who it is, but it's Mike Conley. Mike Conley. He goes to the line, right? And he has to, and it's on the arc, right?
Point guard Mike Conley, like
Yeah.
old Grizzlies Conley. That's oh man, I like Conley. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he goes to the line, right? And he's shooting three because he's on the arc, right? That's where he got fouled, and they're down by three. So he has to make every single one of these shots in LA, mind you. This is the Lakers have home field at this, or I guess home court in this situation. So all you hear is a lot of chants directed towards the referees, as you can imagine from LA. But
Yep.
yeah, he made all three of them. It was scary. He probably shouldn't have made all three of them. There were a couple that were kind of close, but they go into overtime, and it was cool because it kind of seemed like this game was a March Madness game, is what it felt like to me. Just the
It did.
style and the pace of the game, and yeah, the Lakers end up winning it at the end, and it was pretty good. I think they deserved to win the game. They played pretty well at the end, and
At the stretch, in the stretch, they definitely played really well. I watched the end of that game. Definitely agree. Did not see the foul from Anthony Davis coming. That was
I mean,
like
if you go back and look at it, it was a foul. It was a shooting foul.
it was.
He hit
It
his
was.
hand and in the act of shooting. So he should have gone to the line, but I think it was an interesting call to make in that moment.
It's hard. It's deciding an entire game on that. But at the same time, you have Minnesota going, well, I mean, duh, that was a foul, right? Textbook foul. And if it was the Lakers in that situation, I would wanted them to call it too. But
Right.
yeah. I mean,
So
I think the better team won is like to
yeah,
hit on your point. I
think
think the
so.
better team won, and I think that they drew Memphis in the next round, and I think that that's a pretty solid matchup for the Lakers.
I think so. I think so. Memphis, obviously, they're a good team, but the Lakers have been really good in this past like end of the season stretch. I saw a stat that
Yeah.
say they were like they're one of the best teams um, in the West playing in their conference through the last part of the season. So that was really hopeful for Lakers fans out there. Maybe they can make another run. You never know. But I will I'll tell everyone who they're playing. Oh, the other play-in match was the 9th and 10th place game, which is the Thunder and the Pelicans, and they play later tonight. But
Mm.
let's go look at the matchups for the playoffs.
Let's see who we got.
It's interesting because we got the Nets and the Sixers. Though that's going to be a fun match. I'm not sure what's going to happen.
I
We'll
got the
see.
Sixers. I got the Sixers.
I
On
got the
like
Sixers as well.
5.
I got the Sixers as well, but you never know. You never know, right?
You never know. Embiid's on a tear though.
Yeah,
MVP.
yeah. And then the Hawks play the Celtics. I'm gonna watch that. That's gonna be a good
Celtics.
game. I don't know, man. Playoff Trey, you never know.
You never know with Trey, but he needs a lot more help, and you got to remember it's going against playoff Tatum.
True.
That dude is nasty. he is
Yes.
nasty. So yeah, I got Celtics. I think on that one I got Celtics, and I'll give Trey a couple games. I got Celtics in 6 in that one.
I'd probably agree. I'll probably go Celtics in 6. Yeah. Next we got the Knicks and the Cavs. I already know who I'm picking on this one. It's regardless of the result. Cavs in 4, baby. You know what it is.
I think Cleveland's a better team. I go Cavs too.
I think it's
Not in 4 though. I think that one may go to 6.
I think realistically, yeah, it probably will.
Yeah, 6 or 7 even maybe with that one.
Donovan Mitchell
those teams match up.
Donovan Mitchell's different, bro. That's all I gotta say about that.
He had like a 70-something point game this season. It's
He's-
like you look back, you scroll on Instagram and you see that, and you're like, wait, 70 plus? Are you serious right now?
He's really good. He's really good. He's showing it in Cleveland. Didn't expect that to happen. I love the trade when it happened, but
Yeah.
I did not think he was going to do this well. But next matchup,
No.
the Kings and the Warriors. It's interesting. And Warriors probably would take this, probably. But the Kings are a good team, and they could
Kings are on
surprise
another
some-
level.
Yeah, they could surprise some people with this matchup. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be really close. Maybe
You think
6
that
or
one goes
7.
7?
maybe
Okay,
6 or
I was
7,
gonna say.
maybe 6 or 7. But
Yeah.
the next 4 matchups we have, one is not determined yet because they haven't played, right? The Lakers and the Grizzlies. That one's gonna be fun. I don't know though. I don't
I
know
got
who
I
I
got the Lakers. I got the Lakers in. No, if Memphis can. Yeah, I'll say the Lakers in 7, just because if you tell me going into the series that Ja steals 2 games, I think that's okay. I think that's
Yeah.
fine. Like I think that you can automatically give for sure one. You're going to give the Grizzlies 1. There's no way the Lakers go in there and sweep them.
Yeah.
You're going to give them 1, but I think Ja could easily have 2 massive games.
I think so.
Easily.
I think a 6 probably the Lakers. I would probably agree with you on that one. Next
But
we
you got
have
playoff Braun.
I know,
You
I
got
know.
playoff Braun, and
I know
he's
you
still
do.
here.
I know you do. And they've been playing really well. I don't know. That one's gonna be hard. I don't
It's
know.
gonna be a hard one.
I think
gonna be a
Lakers
hard one.
though. I will probably stick
Yeah.
with you on that. But next one is the Bucks and to be determined. We don't know who's gonna be in that spot yet, but it's gonna be. Let's see.
The Bucks against who?
The Bucks against nobody yet because they haven't played, right?
Oh well,
matchups
it
are
doesn't
still
matter because
happening.
the Bucks are going to win in 4.
You know what? I mean,
So.
that's probably fair. It's probably
It,
fair.
it, it ends it ends there. There's I mean
Maybe
honestly,
5.
that team
Give them 5.
maybe I could give you maybe 5, but that Bucks team is just too dominant. Too dominant. If Dallas ever figures it out, I want to see Luka and Antetokounmpo go at it in the playoffs. That's my dream scenario, is to watch those two just go, because they both will just eat. They'll both just be like, everybody go away. Just let me do this. Just give me the ball. Let's play straight 1-on-1. Let's go.
It's funny. It's funny. Yeah, I would agree with that matchup. Would be kind of cool. But the Mavs just kind of poop the bed.
Yeah, I mean
Towards the
they
end
have
of
a
the
whole they have an off season. They have a whole nother season to do it.
Yeah,
It happens with the Mavs.
The final 2 matchups are the Clippers and the Suns. I'm gonna take the Suns.
Okay.
It's close though. Maybe in 6, maybe 7.
Clippers and Suns.
Clippers and Suns. I don't know. Probably 6.
I'm gonna go Phoenix on that one. I think Phoenix takes it. I would say Phoenix takes it in 5 or 6.
Yeah, I'm probably
because that, like, you have Devin Booker, you have DeAndre Ayton, you have Kevin Durant.
Well, yeah.
You have imagine having 2 shooters of that caliber on the team. Kevin Durant gonna go down as one of the best mid-range shooters of all time. And then you have Devin Booker, who it's like, oh no, KD's not hitting 2s. To Book and let him hit some 3s. Oh, Book's not hitting 3s. Let's give it to KD. Let him hit some 2s. Oh, DeAndre, let's put him in the mix a little bit too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that. That's too good. That's too many good players. You know what I mean?
I agree. And the Suns have been there before. They've been to the finals recently, so it's like
Exactly.
they have that experience, and I think it could definitely carry them through at least the earlier parts of the playoffs for this time around. But
For
the
sure.
next
Is
matchup,
that
we got one
Okay.
more, but it's undetermined yet. It's the Nuggets, and I think they're the 1 seed, and they're gonna play whoever ends up being the 8 seed.
Oh, I mean, Jokic. You know, you lean on Jokic, obviously the Joker with the Nuggets, right? And then you have Jamal Murray too, the original Arrow. Got to watch him do that against A&M in college. He really beat us that game.
I remember that. That was a fun one.
Yeah, that was a fun one. But yeah, I would take that. I don't know who they're playing, so I'm gonna have to wait to pick on that matchup.
I don't know. Denver's good. I think I'm probably gonna pick them over whoever they play.
I mean, with the 1 seed, you kind of have to go that way, right?
Right.
Moving right along to the Masters. So, brief recap if you didn't watch. Jon Rahm won. He's from Spain. He wasn't leading throughout the whole tournament. The leader of the whole tournament was Brooks Koepka, who recently made the move to Live Golf. And then you had another member of Live Golf right underneath him with Phil Mickelson. And Phil played his mind out. He played really well the last 2 days, played really well on Saturday and Sunday. Did not see Phil Mickelson and Brooks Koepka being in the top 3, but they were. Brooks had the tournament. He now, when you say had the tournament, he had a full day left in golf, and there was a ton of weather delays. But Brooks Koepka just went out there and showed why golf is one of the hardest sports on the planet. I mean, if you watch the Netflix documentary, I think it's called Full Swing, about it on the documentary about how he literally like loses his swing. In golf, apparently that's a thing. Like you can just lose
Wow.
your swing. And in golf, if you're, I mean, speaking from experience, if you're this far off on your stroke, go in a completely different place. Like it's all fluent, it's all motion, right? It's all motion. And crazy is that these guys are paid millions and millions of dollars, and even they can lose their swing. But Brooks lost his swing, and I didn't see him being in the top, 50 in the world. Like realistically, like I didn't see him being in the top 50 because just watching him play this year, like he hasn't looked that great. He has at times, but he really hasn't looked that great. And then this weekend, he looked like vintage Brooks Koepka, and he dominated for 2 days, clear cut winner first 2 days. There's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Each day the cut you go less and less. But when you have a golfer like Koepka and he just puts it on, he finished the tournament with -8, which is really not bad at Augusta. And then Mickelson was right behind him with also -8. They were tied for second, and then John Rahm won big time with -12. He ran away with it on the last day. It honestly wasn't even close. Brooks, there was a weather delay, so they had to play the end of the last holes, a couple holes, and then they jumped in to actually play. And Brooks didn't look very well even on the Saturday holes. So it was one of those things where you kind of knew Rahm was going to run away with it, and he did. But he played great golf, and he got the green jacket. So congrats to John Rahm and
That's awesome.
Brooks Koepka and Phil Mickelson. They played a hell of a tournament, and recently mentioned it, but Sam Bennett, he's an amateur golfer from A&M, and broke a ton of records. At one point on Friday, he was tied for second. And the last time that had happened was 1956, that an amateur had been tied for second.
Wow.
Is an amateur. You don't. Not only do you not play in front of that many people, but you're not playing Augusta, the arguably hardest golf course in the United States. That's why it's the Masters. That's why it's the most coveted major win. Period. Bar none. You get a green jacket, and you get to be let into that club, and you get to play that. You get to play that golf course for the rest of your life because you won there, and you're a green jacket winner. And the next year, what's actually kind of cool is the previous winner gets to pick the dinner.
That's
So
cool.
like Scotty Scheffler had like mashed potatoes and like mac and cheese on there, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, and the other cool thing about the Masters is this is the golf tournament I want to go to. Dream to go to. They take your phone. When you walk in, you can't have your phone. Literally take your phone from you, and everything is priced like the old days.
What?
Hamburgers,
That's cool.
$2, and
Love
you're
that.
at the Masters. But what's crazy is they make about, I think I saw the stat, $220,000 a minute on merchandise sales. Everything's so crazy high with merchandise. But got off on a tangent there. Sam Bennett, amateur from A&M, played incredible golf on Thursday, Friday. I watched all of his everything, the whole golf tournament this weekend. He definitely fell off toward the end, but he's an amateur. You know what I mean? He's that well. He's going to be back. He knows how the course is. He literally went to the biggest stage in the biggest golf tournament in the world and held his own for 2 days. And then finished. I want to say he finished in the top 20, which even then, finishing in the top 20 at the Masters is a feat in itself. And the fact that he's an amateur and he did it, I think that you have golfers that have courses that they're randomly really good at. Kid is randomly really good at Augusta, and he picked the best one to be good at.
Yeah, that one's
So I'm
pretty
excited.
good.
Yeah, it's aight. You know what I mean? It's aight. I'm excited to see the future for him, and especially A&M golf, because the counterparts in Austin, UT, have been churning out golfers. Jordan Spieth, Scotty Scheffler, you know what I mean? Who is the world's #1 golfer for a long time. Jordan Spieth has already won the green jacket, you know what I mean? Already won majors, was on a trajectory of like Tiger Woods at the beginning of his career. And now A&M maybe has somebody that can compete there too at the top level. So I'm excited to see where he goes. But
That's exciting.
now we're going to go to everybody really wants to listen to the mock draft. Tanner, you ready for this?
I am ready for the mock draft. All right. Did you see? Let's hit on a little bit of NFL news before we go into the mock draft, though.
Yes.
How about? I think since the last time we talked, how about that Odell Beckham Jr. to the Ravens? What are we thinking about that?
I think that you had Odell Beckham to the Ravens, and it was one of those free agents where it's like wondering why it was going to take that long. Like, why is it taking so long to sign Odell Beckham?
Right.
You know what I mean? Why is it taking so long to sign this guy? And they signed him, and he immediately had a Twitter conversation with old Lamar Jackson. So it makes me think that Lamar's not going anywhere.
Seems like Lamar's coming back.
Yeah, it makes me think Lamar's not going anywhere. And here's my thing. If you listen weeks ago, when we started talking about this, I didn't think Lamar was really going to go anywhere anyway. You know what I mean? I said it'd be really nice for Lamar to go somewhere else, but realistically, I've been harping on this from the beginning. They built their whole offense around this player. They're not just going to let him walk when his contract's up. That's not going to happen. Everybody in the front office would be fired if they did that. They all put their jobs on the line whenever they got Lamar at the last pick in the first round, right?
Yeah.
And you're seriously telling me there's somebody out there that's going to do better than Lamar's done for the Ravens?
Well, yeah.
In that offense,
or like an incoming free agent, no one's going to be better than
yeah, and that system is just so kind. It's a fun playbook to use on Madden. Let me tell you.
There's a lot of wildcat in that one.
Oh yeah, a lot of QB reads. I love it. I think it was a great signing. I think that you can bring star of Odell Beckham's caliber to a team. It's good. Now he's not Odell Beckham of old, right? He's
right.
A little bit more seasoned. He's definitely lost a step. No disrespect to Odell, but even lost a step, Odell, I think he's still better than a lot of NFL wide receivers. And I think he walks in and is easily a number 2. I'm interested to see this year what Rashad Bateman does out in Baltimore, just because he started to hit a little bit last year, but then it kind of, it didn't really continue. So I'm interested to see what he does. But I think adding many receivers as you possibly can, I would do that if I was the front office there, like the Cowboys in the early 2000s. Oh, you said we drafted 4 linebackers? Give us 2 more. Bring more. If I was a Ravens, we drafted 3 receivers, first 4 rounds. Let's get 2 more.
I mean, imagine.
Seriously.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, imagine like someone learning under Odell Beckham. You know what I mean? Just like a young.
Imagine
receiver.
Lamar having a true number 1.
Yeah.
Like seriously.
I mean, you said it earlier a couple episodes ago. Lamar just needs a big-bodied receiver, and that's exactly what they got. They got Odell. And
They need a red zone threat.
I like the move. I like the move a lot. I think it's really smart from the front office.
Yeah, I do too. So, do you have any other ones you want to talk about, Tanner? Or is that it?
Not really. I mean, the only other big one is Jeff Okudah to the Falcons, but that's like, you know what I mean.
But if you're a draft guru like we are, that's big, because that was a first-round pick for a what? You sent it over to me right before the podcast, like a 5th?
It was a 5th, yeah. They got him for a 5th.
And a baby. That makes me think Atlanta's going to have a good draft for some reason. I don't know. That just gives me.
They got him now, and they got who's that other really good corner that they drafted?
Atlanta?
Yeah.
Oh, from Clemson, AJ Terrell.
AJ Terrell, yeah. So that's gonna be interesting. That's gonna be fun. I'm gonna see. I want to see what Jeff Okudah does there as a number 2. He doesn't have to cover the best receiver, anymore.
That's true. That's very true. I mean, for a 5th-round pick, obviously, yeah, you're not going to be covering the number 1. But now we go to the mock draft, and I'm so stoked for this.
Meat and potatoes.
So meat and potatoes, everybody. So this mock draft. First of all, let me preface. This mock draft I made is more off of what I would do, and also think is going to happen. And there are going to be some reaches, some surprise picks. I threw in a little bit of everything. So, Tanner, don't be, my football knowledge. Don't question my football knowledge. But I have some in here I can't wait to bring up, because I know there's going to be some question marks on your side. So
why are the Chiefs drafting a quarterback in the first round?
Yeah, it's like, wait, what? So the first overall pick, we have the Carolina Panthers. Take a quarterback, obviously.
Which one?
The quarterback they're going to take is easy. It's Bryce Young.
Right.
It's not. I'm not buying the Ohio State C.J. Stroud. He's a top 10 for me. He's not even a top 5 prospect. He he is a top 5 prospect for me, but Bryce Young, I think, is clearly better than CJ Stroud, and that's just my opinion.
I think you're probably right with that one. I mean, in my opinion, he's also the better quarterback. Just because, I mean, you watch him play. You watch him play in the SEC. He's been doing it at Alabama. He's been putting up that.
Yeah,
like
what he did week in and week out, you can't argue it, right?
exactly.
Like there's nothing you can do to argue that pick. So we are jumping to number 2. Just talked about the quarterback. We have CJ Stroud from Ohio State. He's going to go to Houston, and I don't think that Houston. I've seen a lot of mocks where Houston is being mocked defensive players, like Will Anderson or oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm drawing a blank on his name right now. The defensive tackle out of Georgia, Jalen Carter. There we go. I've seen mocks where the Texans have drafted a defensive player. Guys, Davis Mills isn't the answer. Let me just break it to you. He's not the answer, Texans fans. I'm sorry, he's not. Go get yourself a quarterback and start to build around him. You already have a franchise left tackle. Let's just hope that C.J. Stroud on draft day doesn't do the same thing that Laramie Tunsil did. And I don't know if you remember that one, Tanner, but Laramie Tunsil, he was about to get drafted in the first round, and a video surfaced of him smoking out of a gas mask, and he fell a couple spots.
I remember that.
So let's not repeat that, but it is Houston. So
I think the thing about that too is like the Texans could go 2 routes here, and depending on this draft, they could go either or, right? So they could take like the Chicago Bears route and go all defense.
Yep.
Just get their defense absolutely disgusting, and then worry about a quarterback later. And
True.
I mean, it works. It definitely works. The Bears have made the playoffs in somewhat recent memory with Mitch Trubisky, but they didn't go very far, right? I mean, there's that. Or you could build around this potential really, really good quarterback. And it seems like that's the move for the future. Maybe 30 years ago, the defense was probably the smarter decision, right?
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's just a quarterback-focused game now. If you don't have a good quarterback, you're probably not a good team.
Exactly. You need somebody that's gonna go out there and give you the chance to take over games and do it. And Houston, I hate to say it, they're nowhere close. Like it's not like CJ Stroud's gonna come in here and they have one draft and it's off to the playoffs. I think the Texans are in big time rebuild mode. I think the Texans have a very good running back with Dameon Pierce. I think they're going to have a very good quarterback with whoever they draft out of CJ Young or Bryce Stroud. Whoever falls to number 2, they're gonna get. Mark my words. And then they have a really good left tackle, like I said. So you build off of those pieces, right? You continue to build off of those pieces. So we'll see what they do. Jumping to number 3, we have the Arizona Cardinals. I actually saw a mock yesterday that had a quarterback going there, and I was like, okay, I'm not even gonna go past pick 3 here. But I have Jalen Carter going, the defensive tackle from Georgia. I think that the Cardinals really pride themselves on the ability to stop the run, and that's the best defensive prospect in this draft and one of the best defensive tackle prospects in more recent memory with how good he is coming out of college. And I think it's a clear cut pick there. Any thought on that one, Tanner?
Who is I'm trying to remember, who is the Cardinals defensive lineman that left, not this offseason we're currently in, but the one previous to this one?
Chandler Jones.
Chandler Jones. So
yeah,
I think
he went to the Raiders. I don't remember. But he's up there. He was up there in sacks last year.
You're right, but he's a really good player, and that's just kind of what I'm thinking about here. So they need to fill a hole. I don't think anyone really stepped up in that hole this past season. So they need some help. They need some help on
the defensive line specifically. You know what I mean? And the thing with Jalen Carter is like he's a true defensive tackle. He's going to stop the run, but at the same time he has the ability to get to the quarterback, right? And it's a defensive tackle that you don't have that ability. Usually you don't have that ability. There's very few that do. And he literally reminds me of like a more athletic version of Jordan Davis coming out last year with like tendencies of Aaron Donald and Chris Jones because of his power. Like he is an incredible prospect, and I think that'd be a really, really fun pick there.
We were talking about him at the end of last year. Like, just like, oh, wait till this guy comes into the draft, right? When we were talking about Jordan Davis,
And let's do another one right now since you said that. Marvin Harrison Jr. Wait till he comes next year.
That one's good.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait for him.
Talk about
I
a
used to
player that has one of the biggest spotlights just coming into the NFL, except for maybe like LeBron's kid, right?
Yeah, with Bronny. Yeah, that's gonna be a tough act to follow with Braun. But here is the first pick I think you may scratch your head at. We have the Indianapolis Colts at number 4 taking Anthony Richardson, the quarterback out of Florida. What do you think about that, Tanner?
I think a lot of other people would go with Will Levis here instead of Anthony Richardson. But I know you're big on Anthony Richardson, right?
I don't like Will Levis. Will Levis doesn't even have a first round grade in my opinion. He's a second round quarterback to me.
There you go.
Not a fan.
I mean, if you think that's the right move, and if you think the Colts are finally done searching and shopping through free agency for a quarterback, I think it's a fair move. I don't think it's bad at all.
And here's the thing. I take Anthony Richardson with the literal game plan of him not starting this season. He's not going to start this season. He's going to get all the coaching he needs. But Colts fans, let me just tell you why you should be excited about this kid. Any better NFL combine than Lamar Jackson? Just leave it there. Just leave it there. Now, the thing with Anthony Richardson, I hit on in a previous episode, then I'm going to jump to the Seahawks at number 5. The reason he's jumped up so far rankings is because his ability outside the pocket. There's a lot of quarterbacks that already have that passing game and rely on that passing game and can get out of a situation like a Trevor Lawrence, right? Trevor Lawrence would be a quarterback that can get out of a situation but does rely on his arm. Anthony Richardson relies on his legs first. In the NFL, everybody's fast. In college, everybody's fast, but not as fast in the NFL. So that's why he needs to sit an entire season. Going number 5, Seattle, a defensive end is coming off the board. Will Anderson Jr. from Alabama.
Nice.
Me, it's just a Pete Carroll pick. You know what I mean? They got the quarterback. They got the quarterback. They signed Geno. They're not getting a quarterback in the first round. And what does Pete Carroll do? He builds around his defense, and that is the best defensive prospect, or the best end, and that's filling a need too. So
I think it's a great pick. I think it's a great pick. Build up that defense. The offense is so far pretty good. You got a lot of weapons.
Yeah.
I think it's fine.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. Then we've got the Detroit Lions, who personally for me, I would not take this prospect that early, but it's just filling a need, and I'll explain why after I tell you the pick. Wilson, the defensive end from Texas Tech. We have a Texas Tech player being drafted in the top 10 at defensive end. That to me is crazy. 5 years ago, if you would have told me that, I would have been like, "There's no shot." But he's really good, and to me, he is easily he has my number 2 defensive prospect in my rankings. Number 2 defensive end or edge prospect in my rankings behind Will Anderson. He's a mid first round grade for me. He's a pass rusher and a run defender, right? So that's why you get him right there. Now, else on that team, pass rusher and a run defender who's on the opposite side, Aiden Hutchinson. Why would you not indicate exactly what you had last season? Now, I'm not comparing him to Aiden Hutchinson, but I'm saying they are both very good pass rushers with the ability to run stop. Tyree Wilson has that. He has like extremely consistent sacks throughout college, which is what you want to see. In 32 quarterback hurries in 10 games played this last season. That is 3 quarterback hurries a game.
Yeah, it is.
That's an entire drive. You take out an entire drive from that team. You just take, okay, that drive you gave me, because the quarterback got hurried, most likely that ball's not going to be completed. So, I don't know. You know what I mean? That's why I did that pick. I think it's a reach, or a bit that's going to be the first reach aside from Anthony Richardson, prospect-wise, but it's hard to pass up that combo.
It's funny that you say that, because like that's one of the biggest, I think in my opinion, the biggest like combos that you can have in the NFL, right? You got to cover one of them, and you're probably going to cover Aiden Hutchinson because he's, like you said, really good. and
He's going to get a double every game.
you're probably going to cover him with another offensive lineman, or if you want to stick a tight end in there, you can. But that's going to leave the other
Yeah.
edge open. And if he's there, and if this Texas Tech kid is there, he's probably going to get some sacks.
I know, and that's not saying too that they're not bringing the tight end or the running back over to chip or help too, right? Like
Yeah.
that is opening that line again. So to me, it's just a perfect fit. Then going to number 7, we have the Raiders. This is all me here. I think that this kid is easily the best cornerback prospect in the draft. A lot of experts do not have him being the best cornerback prospect in the draft, but I've been raving about this kid for months now. Devon Witherspoon, the cornerback out of Illinois. A lot of mocks have the out of Oregon, Christian Gonzalez going there, because a lot of mocks have said that I've read have said that Devon Witherspoon is a slot only corner. Okay. I don't know what tape they were watching, but that's just not true. He lined up outside pretty much every single down. He's a top 5 player to me. I think that you're kind of getting the first steal of the draft at number 7 there, personally. And I think he is literally the best prospect. It's not even close. And he's a man coverage player. He is man coverage through and through. He has blanket at times, and it's just not even close in college. Now, yes, there's going to be a step up in the NFL. I get that. But I think that the Raiders historically take the prospects that are a little bit more raw for the upside. And I think that Witherspoon has more upside in this draft than every other corner. So that's why I have him going there.
I don't think it's bad at all, because the Raiders make a lot of questionable picks in the first round of drafts.
Yeah. You know who I thought was a questionable pick too? I remember when they took Max Crosby. I was wrong about that one.
Yeah, a lot of people were, man.
Yeah, a lot of people were wrong about that one. Going to number 8, Atlanta Falcons. I don't have them taking a quarterback here. Last year they took Desmond Ridder. I think that was last year.
Yeah.
Or was that the year before? That was last year.
Yeah.
Early in the earlier rounds. I don't think they're going to take a quarterback. I think that, yes, if Bryce Young or CJ Stroud fell, yes, I think they could potentially pull the trigger there because it's hard not to. I think if Anthony Richardson or Will Levis is sitting there on the board, I don't think they bat an eye. I don't think they take either of those prospects. I think they get my favorite wide receiver in this draft. And the wide receiver, the only one, has that it factor. Whenever you watch CeeDee Lamb in college, you were like, okay, this kid has it. This kid has something.
Yeah.
So does this kid. Tanner already knows what I'm talking about. I don't even have to say it. Jackson Smith-Njigba out of Ohio State. He is cool as you could be. and he just has that it. And you know who else had that it? And you know who else Atlanta drafted a little bit early? Kyle Pitts. So I think they're going to do the same, and I think that that's what I would do if I was a Falcons fan, because I think that you're going to be looking back at this draft and you're going to look at that post every year that ESPN does where they re-rank the draft and they re-pick the draft. I think that I don't think he's going to get picked in the top. I mean, I do in this mock, but realistically, I could see him falling to 15 range. But he is literally in the top 5 prospects for me in my top 100.
So is this starting to become like your way too early pick for offensive rookie of the year?
Ooh. See, yes. I would say yes, but at the same time it's hard because in perfect transition in a couple picks, but I think that Bijan Robinson, it's very hard take that away from him. And also,
in the quarterbacks.
Not to mention the quarterbacks, like NFL is so heavily favored in the quarterbacks. If you don't think so, just go look at the previous 20 MVPs and tell me how many of them are quarterbacks, right? Like, it's so heavily favored in the quarterback game. So if a quarterback doesn't win it, I would not be surprised if he did. But the thing is at Ohio State is that what he has to tap into is that it factor every game. And you saw it with CeeDee Lamb. It took CeeDee a while to tap into that it factor. There would be games where he would completely disappear. He wouldn't even show up, right? Like in the NFL, that would happen in the beginning. Now it doesn't happen. But in the beginning, it did happen.
I think that the same exact transition. I think they're the exact same player. I literally think they're the exact same player, except Jackson. I think is a little bit. He looks a little bit smaller to me on tape. CD looks a little bit bigger on tape for me. Strictly talking about coming out of college, coming out of Oklahoma. I think I would go with that. So the next pick, we have the Chicago Bears at number 9, taking this one. This one's interesting. Paris Johnson Jr., the offensive tackle / offensive guard from Ohio State. You're seeing a lot of Buckeyes go in this first, this top 10. Tanner's stoked about it.
Hi. Oh.
I think that they get him in this position because of the position flexibility. That's the only reason he is the first offensive. It's my first offensive tackle / guard taken off the board. Is he the best one? No, in my opinion, he's not. But when you have Justin Fields as your quarterback, you need a tackle that has the ability to swing. And he's very, very light on his feet. So I think that those are huge traits in what they're going to get in that.
I think you made a really good point with that. That makes a lot of sense when you have Justin Fields back there.
And that's the only reason I don't have Peter Skrinsky, the offensive tackle from Northwestern, off the board here. That's the literal only reason for that.
Yeah.
The next pick, because that was Chicago at 9, we have Philadelphia at 10.
All right, what are they gonna do?
You're not gonna like this.
I know who's going to Philly. It's
It's
perfect
Bijan.
one. It's Bijan. It's always Bijan.
It's Bijan. Eagles had very questionable drafts. Very questionable drafts up until recently. And even Eagles fans can agree with that one. They haven't had very questionable drafts recently. They've been very, very good. Some of the best top 5 drafts in the NFL every single year. When you're doing that well in the draft, you're not going to pass up a prospect of this caliber. And guess what? Their number 1 running back left.
Miles Sanders is gone. It's like perfect. It's just perfect.
I think it's perfect. And the Eagles have so many good players. The needs of the Eagles don't fit that early. I mean, like, the needs of the Eagles, you have, like, you need some linebackers. You could need some, I don't necessarily think you need corners. I really don't think you need safeties. Well, you could use safety, but you're not going to take a safety in the top 10, right? Defensive ends, you don't need defensive tackles. You need defensive tackles, but your best defensive tackle got taken at number 3 in this mock to the Arizona Cardinals with Jalen Carter. But that's why I have the
defensive tackle in the first round last year.
Exactly. Now, do I think that the Eagles, spoiler alert, are going to do a defensive tackle in the first 2 rounds? Yes, I think they're going to take a defensive tackle. I won't tell you exactly when in my mock it's going to go, but yes, I think they are. And the only reason I think that is because if you watched last year with Jordan Davis, he didn't get a lot of playing time. Mm-hmm. And when he did, he wasn't necessarily the best. He is not looking up to prospect level he was coming out of the draft. Now, it's when you're a defensive tackle that relies on power but is athletic, about that game, right? Like, you're not just going to come in and throw opposing 320-pound offensive linemen, 300-pound offensive linemen that have been there forever, right? You're not just going to throw them around. So I think that's why the Eagles are going to take a defensive tackle in the first couple rounds, and why they need to. Because when is the last time you've ever thought of a Philly team that hasn't stopped the run?
Yeah, never.
I can't think of a Philly team that hasn't stopped the run. So
maybe Sam Bradford.
Then we.
It's a long time ago.
That was a brutal Philly team. Yeah, like back when. Yeah, I remember that. Back when, like, Mike Vick came back to the Eagles. So then we have the Tennessee Titans at number 11. I have them taking the best offensive tackle in this draft, Peter Skrinsky from Northwestern. Tried and true tackle. Stick him in. He's your franchise tackle. I think that you need a tackle in this league. Probably second to quarterback. And I think that him sitting there at number 11 is then jumping to number 12, because I think this one's going to spark a little bit. Remember, number 1, the Houston Texans had Bryce Young, quarterback from Alabama. Number 12, a lot of people's number 1 wide receiver is still on the board here, Tanner. With Quentin Johnson, the wide receiver out of TCU, the big body, the Andre Johnson type of red zone ability, but has a little bit of speed.
Why would you not bring in a young rookie wide receiver with your young rookie quarterback? Why would you not? Because now they didn't go to the same call. Now I could also see a scenario where the Texans take CJ Stroud and then sitting there, and yes, that's going to happen if that happens. If that happens, just know, know that's going to happen because you watched it with Burrow. You've seen success. You've seen success when you bring over the receivers. They've developed that chemistry. It's not rocket science, right?
Right.
So I think that bringing in another first round wide receiver with a quarterback, especially in the top 15, is a must for the Texans here. I think they have to take the best wide receiver, barring that Quentin Johnson or Jackson didn't get taken, right? But I think that's a pretty solid pick there for the Texans. What do you think, Tanner?
That's a nice 1-2 combo. That's really nice. You just
yeah.
It's kind of like you just like cleaning the slate. Like, all right, boys, go at it. See what you can do.
Exactly. Develop that chemistry and see where you can go. Then you got the New York Jets. I have them taking Kalijah Cansey, the defensive tackle out of Pittsburgh. He is one hell of a defensive tackle prospect. Very raw, but very, very similar to Donald from Pittsburgh. Literally, like he made almost watched Aaron Donald highlights growing up or something because they look like the same player at times. Not going to say he's going to get to Aaron Donald level. That's one of the greatest defensive players we've ever seen. Yep. But he's solid, and the Jets, I think, at that position is a very high position of need on their team. And I think that, well, let me preface this. It's not the highest position in need because they already have Quinnen Williams. But Quinnen Williams goes, when you watch a Jets play, he's everywhere on that line. So I think that they need like a true defensive tackle to just sit there, stop the run. He's also really athletic. And when you've already taken a defensive tackle prospect that's athletic, I see you doing it again because I think he has the same ability. Then you jump to the New England Patriots, and I have Lucas Van Ness, the defensive end out of Iowa. Here's my thing. The Patriots are going to take some random player out of like Chattanooga, Tennessee, but I'm not just going to put some 5th-round prospect in there. Yeah. So I'm going to give him a position of need with Lucas Van Ness, the defensive end out of Iowa. He's a solid player, and he's my third ranked defensive end or 4th ranked defensive end. Okay, so he has a late first-round grade for me. He had 31 hurries in 13 games with 9 sacks as a sophomore. So nice. That was his best season. I have on my scouting report here that he really likes the stats, and the passes versatility is not even it's not even a competition. Versatility is number 1 in his game. He's going to be versatile. He's going to go inside, go outside. It is Bill Belichick draft. That player. Just somebody that is willing to go anywhere and do anything, and that's exactly Lucas Van Ness's game. So,
good pick.
See that one. Then you have the Green Bay Packers at 15. I have the first tight end coming off the board. This one may be a surprise.
We were talking about this, so.
Yep. The tight end, Dalton Kincaid from Utah. I think he is more of the pass-catching tight end. Pull up my scouting report on him real quick. But more of the pass-catching tight end. He's more of the tight end that's going to bring not necessarily an option game because as a tight end, you're not bringing an option game. But I am drafting him going into this season saying Jordan Love is my quarterback. Jordan Love, coming out of college, had the ability to run every now and then. I think when you have that ability to kind of scramble every now and then, you also are going to mimic that player's play style. And I think that with Dalton Kincaid, you watch him in Utah and he almost makes up his own routes sometimes. And so I think that that's why he's going to be such a good asset to Green Bay, because he's that player that literally makes up his own routes at points. He's a great player.
What would you think his NFL comparison is, just player-wise?
So, yeah, I'll read it right here. So his catching ability is not usual for a tight end. He reminds me of an extremely raw Travis Kelce.
Okay, because that's what I was thinking when you're talking about, like, he makes up his own routes, he's passing ball or catching balls.
Exactly. And I have a mid first round grade on him. Best tight ends in football, 16 total touchdowns, almost broke 100 targets this season.
Wow.
Is a tight end,
In
dude.
college.
In college, at
That's
Utah.
Yeah.
Utah. So I think within 2 seasons, this kid's going to be a tight end 1. Like you can't really walk in and be a number 1 tight end your first season because it's such a huge gap.
Yeah.
The learning
Yeah.
with tight ends in college because it's so different, right? Like it's so different.
Yeah.
So I think year number 2, you're going to start seeing him perform. But then jumping to number 16, second corner to come off the draft.
Ooh.
The Pittsburgh Steelers take Christian Gonzalez.
Ooh.
A lot of experts number 1 corner from Oregon. That fills a position of need,
That's nice.
and it's one of those value picks.
Yeah.
You can't pass up a prospect like that at that time, right? Jumping to Washington Commanders. This one was hard for me. This one was really hard for me. I thought potentially about going quarterback here, but I didn't. I didn't go quarterback here. I went Michael Mayer, the tight end out of Notre Dame.
Ooh, a tight
And
end.
the reason I'm going there is because when I look back and I think of Washington, I think of recent Washington. I think of the dominant. Was it Jordan Reed? Of course, I'm blanking on his name now. But the dominance of that tight end, I think his name was Jordan Reed. But I think that they relied on that dominant Jordan. If you could look this up, Tanner, that'd be awesome. I don't want to keep saying his name if that's not the right guy, but I'm pretty sure that's the guy. He balled out at Washington, and you almost watched the entire. Yeah, okay, thank you. You almost watched the entire offense go through him, and that's what happened. Notre Dame. You ready for this number? Mid first round grade, high production tight end in college, with over 190 targets in the last 2 seasons, and he can block.
Impressive. He had that many targets.
So-
Are those like how far are those targets like down the field? Like are those just like little like
It's a
Chip
it's a tight
routes?
end, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a tight end. So you can say 20% of those routes are going to be little dump offs,
Yeah.
the safety blanket, but he's like a route runner almost at tight end and that has the ability to block. And he's definitely not a blocking first tight end. Both of these tight ends are not blocking first tight ends. But contested catches down the field, I have it written down here, and specifically in the red zone. So not all of his catches are within 5 yards of the quarterback. He does run routes downfield and is a pretty solid route runner. I think the tight ends in this year's draft, solid, dude. Like really, really solid. I think that tight ends this year, I think for the Cowboys, letting Dalton Schultz walk was the best could have done. Even though they didn't let him walk, they tried to sign him for like 3 years, $12 million a year, and Dalton said no and took less money and went to a worse team for 1 year. Whatever. We won't get
They
into
let
that
him
now.
walk. They let him walk.
Yeah, they let him walk. The Lions, Lions are here again, and I have them taking Joey Porter Jr., the cornerback from Penn State. Now that they traded Okuda, now really makes me think they're gonna make that pick, just because they're getting rid of another guy. But then you have the argument, right? Well, they already drafted a first round corner. Why would they take another first round corner? Well, Okuda was like top 5, top 10. You know,
was really high.
It was really high. He was the top corner. He just hasn't panned out yet. And or they haven't used him right in the system, right? It could all be a system thing because you've seen players go to a different team and be better. I have them taking Joey Porter Jr., like I said, the cornerback out of Penn State, number 3 ranked corner on my board. Once again, one of those players it's hard to pass up, and when it fills a position in need, take it. Here is the quarterback that everybody's been talking about. Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to take Will Levis. I think the Bucs are going to take him. I think the Bucs, you can't not at that spot, especially with who they have in the backfield right now at the quarterback position. You know what I mean? You can't not.
I've heard their current quarterback is dangerous. His name's Baker Mayfield.
So, no offense, Bake. Went to high school down the road from where I went to high school, but Baker's a starting quarterback in the NFL. I think Baker is the literal perfect backup quarterback in the NFL, but I think that if you have Baker Mayfield, and I'm not saying that Baker's going to, coach and teach Will Levis. I don't know Baker's approach for rookie quarterbacks coming in and all that. But I think that it'd be a very good system fit in terms of scheme, in terms of play style. Almost kind of the same quarterback, but you're hoping Will Levis actually, because Baker was a number 1 overall pick, and you could technically say that has been a letdown thus far. Now, Cleveland hadn't won a game in forever, and Baker won more games at quarterback than they did and made them a playoff team. So
I mean, yeah, the situation is mostly relative, right? But
yeah,
I like the pick with Will Levis there, especially with Baker. If he is backing him up at this point, we don't know, especially at the beginning of the season. But it's going to give some competition in that quarterback room, and I think that's good for a young quarterback.
exactly, and that's what you need. The Seattle Seahawks are going to take defensive end here. They're going to take. Wait, did I have the Seattle taking? That's a mess up in my mock. Anyway, just figured that out live on the air. I have Seattle taking Miles Murphy, the defensive end from Clemson here. So, Seattle fans, you're good. You're good on your defensive line for this year. So, definitely plan that. For sure. They're building their defense. They're building their defense. But no, that was just a mess up on my part. But Miles Murphy, honestly, gonna keep the pick just because Miles Murphy does have the ability to come inside too. And when you see defensive ends or positions really drafted in Seattle, you see Seattle almost draft in positions of 2 time because they almost want Pete Carroll wants to make sure, right? He wants to make sure that prospect is going to hit, and if he doesn't hit, the next guy's going to hit for him. You know what I mean? Yeah. So then moving right along after that one, we have the Chargers, Los Angeles Chargers. That's still weird for me to say. Deontay Banks to cornerback out of Maryland. I think that pick is definitely a reach for me. I have Deontay Banks not until the 2nd round. Hey, there's Odin making an appearance on the screen. Deontay Banks not making an appearance. Deontay not going until the 2nd round. If I was an NFL GM, you're starting to get wiped out at corner, and you're starting the drop off is bigger and bigger and bigger as you go down to the 2nd and 3rd round in this year's draft. So that's why I have Chargers taking a corner there. Jumping to the Ravens, they lost their best offensive tackle this offseason to the Bengals.
Yeah.
So obviously they're going to just go in and fill that need with Broderick Jones, the offensive tackle out of Georgia. He is a higher ranked offensive tackle for me. I want to say he's my 3rd offensive tackle or guard that I or offensive tackle that I have. Yeah, he has a late first in my grades. Only 2 sacks and 3 quarterback hits, or 3 quarterback hits and 12 quarterback hurries in the past 28 games.
Wow.
With Lamar, you're not going to take as many. You're going to take a lot more sacks because he's going to be out of the pocket. He's going to be moving. He's going to be trying to get that play to go somewhere else. But when he's in the pocket, he's going to block. You know what I mean? And you can't not block Lamar. And to me, it's a perfect fit right here. It's like a glove. A lot of these picks are going to be like glove picks, aside from the dumb pick that I just made with Seattle at 20.
Well, what about just thinking back to your argument with Justin Fields and how they got almost like a swing tackle, right, or a swing offensive lineman, right? With that, so how does he compare? How does he fit in that role? Because I mean, Justin Fields and Lamar play a very similar game.
Yeah, and that's why that's why I do my homework, because Tanner's going to put me on the spot, ask me questions, make sure I really know these prospects, make sure I really know these teams, and let me read you what I have from Tanner. So late 1st round grade, Jones will have an easy transition to left tackle in the NFL. The stat I just told you, an extremely balanced pass blocker and run blocker. This player loves to get out in front of a screen pass or a quarterback scramble. Reminds me of a freight train when he's the lead blocker. There you go.
There you go.
He fits perfect. He's going to fit that scheme and that mold perfectly. And you're going to see that continue to come up in a lot of these picks. It's the scheme. You're going to hear me talk about scheme. That's
The scheme is how the team plays, exactly what the team is running on offense and defense, the type of players they're going to draft. That's why when outside looking in at a fan base at a draft, if you're just getting into the NFL, it's really hard to study your past drafts to know what your team is going to do this year, because with these prospects, what happens is if one good prospect falls, your team's like, hold on, throw everything away. And that's what Dallas did.
Yeah.
When CD fell, they're like, hold on, we didn't think he was going to be there. Bring him in, even though we already have Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup at this point. Bring him in.
The crazy thing about CeeDee Lamb at that point too was he wasn't even on a 30 visit. They hadn't even talked to this dude.
No.
They're just like,
No.
oh, only on reputation and tape alone they drafted him. So it really could go either way.
Which is crazy. Exactly. Jumping to we have the Minnesota Vikings. I have them taking Jordan Addison, the wide receiver out of USC, because they lost Adam Thielen this year.
That's a good pick. I like that pick.
I know that Justin Jefferson is your clear number one, but here's the thing. You can't throw every single ball to Justin Jefferson.
Right.
And if you draft a number one wide receiver that the upside kid has, it's hard to argue. It's hard to argue that pick. He has an early second round grade for me. He was a transfer student from Pitt. His best season was in 2021, where he had this is crazy, 1,600 yards, 150 targets, and 17 touchdowns.
Oh my god, 150?
Almost 150 targets in a single season.
Crazy. But I mean, think about the situation that this kid is coming into, right? Justin Jefferson, you're number one, and you get to learn from him, and you almost have like no expectation on you to succeed.
None.
Like none. You just got to play your game. You just got to sit back, be comfortable, and Justin Jefferson's probably going to teach you a lot of stuff, especially in that offensive system, which is very nice.
Imagine being a first-round offensive wide receiver taken, being told that you don't have to be the number one wide receiver, and you are not going to be the number one wide receiver. That's the perfect. That's every wide receiver in this draft is like, put me there. Put me right there. Like, that's where I want to go. So, yeah. And now let me. And the reason he had such good season like that, he's learned from a lot of pretty good quarterbacks, right? Pitt's had some solid quarterbacks recently, and guess who he just learned from? Who is another prospect that we're going to be talking about in the coming years? The kid that won the Heisman, Caleb Williams. He's gonna be the first quarterback drafted. Probably when he comes into the league. He's a Heisman winner. How is he not going to be the first quarterback drafted, right? He fit right in with Caleb Williams. And if you're just new to that team, comes in with Lincoln, comes over with Lincoln Riley, comes over from Oklahoma. Thank God, thank God we didn't have to face him in the SEC next year. Whew. Dodged a bullet there, or not next year, the year after next, but dodged a bullet there. Caleb Williams, we'll just real quick, and then I'll get back to Jordan Addison. Great quarterback prospect.
Oh my gosh.
Kid can run, the kid can pass, the kid can hit a dime 50 yards away. He is. Can't wait for him to come into the league.
How many points did they put up in that championship game this past season? It was a lot.
A lot.
They still lost.
I remember a lot. Yeah, I don't remember how much, but I do remember they put up. And that's a kid that he's like on the level of like a Trevor Lawrence. He's just so much higher than a lot of other quarterbacks in college right now. You know what I mean? He's on that other level. But now with Jordan Addison, it's hard to not get him. And one of his best abilities is his rack ability, his run after catch ability. Now, knock on him is that Caleb Williams threw him open a lot. Right?
Right.
You already want your wide receiver to be open, right, obviously. I don't think Kirk Cousins is necessarily going to throw you open. But Kirk is very balanced. If you listen to the pod last week, right in the middle in terms of quarterbacks in the NFL. I think if you can throw the ball to Justin Jefferson, now given Justin Jefferson can catch literally anything, but if you can throw the ball to Jordan Addison, maybe he's not going to make the crazy acrobatic catches that Justin Jefferson is, but if you give it to him in stride, which Kirk can do, Kirk can hit you with a slant in stride or a deep route in stride now and then. It's a hard pick to pass up. So that's kind of why I got Jordan Addison going there.
I like it.
Then this is kind of crazy.
The Jacksonville Jaguars at 24 take the first guard from Florida, Osiris Torrance. It's what you have to do in Jacksonville. Just continue to build that offense.
Yeah.
They brought over Evan Ingram. They brought over Christian Kirk. They brought over offensive line. Just continue to build that offense, and then work on the defense. Work on the defense afterwards, because Trevor Lawrence is one of the best young quarterbacks in the league. Going to be the face of the NFL, I have a feeling, in a couple years, and I've been high on him since high school. And a better way to impact your team on the offensive side of the ball than blocking Trevor Lawrence, because they did give up quite a bit of sacks last year.
Yeah.
So,
Move. Absolutely good move.
Yeah.
And it also reinforces
Kinda-
the running game. You got a young running back there. So
with ETN, his counterpart from Clemson. Exactly. Then the New York Giants, they also don't draft bad anymore. Sorry, folks. They used to. They don't anymore. They're taking a wide receiver out of Boston College because receiver room is arguably one of the worst in the NFL. So I think that they're going to take a wide receiver in the first round, probably again in like the third too. But yeah, I have them taking Zay Flowers, the wide receiver out of Boston College. He's an early second round grade for me, but what you're going to be doing is a lot of these end of the first round picks. Dallas especially is known for this. They're going to take a player that traditionally would get taken probably in the middle of the early second round because they're not going to be there when they pick again. I think that is this kind of player with Zay Flowers. I don't think he's going to be there necessarily after the first 5 picks in the first round. I think somebody would almost trade up to get this kid. He is pretty consistent. Over 1,000 yards this past season. And once again, targets with tight ends and wide receivers are a big theme with Tanner and I. He had over 100 targets twice in 3 years. So what that tells me is that not only did the offense run through him 1 year, it happened again. And so it wasn't a fluke, right?
Yeah.
And obviously to be drafted this high, to be drafted in the first round, you have to have stats like that. You have to have numbers like that, unless you're being drafted only on potential. But I think that it's a pretty really argue it if you're a Giants fan. It's one of those things where it's like, yeah, we need wide receivers.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
it makes sense. I could see I could see a wide receiver just in that position.
Dallas Cowboys at pick number 26. The Dallas Cowboys kind of got wiped out with a lot of the prospects that I was going to go for here, but it's the easiest pick for me. It's Brian Brees, the defensive tackle out of Clemson. It's hard not put him here when you look at the defensive side of the ball, because I think the Cowboys are going to draft on the defensive side of the ball in the first round. For sure. That's what I think they're going to do. A crazy prospect is sitting there. I think they're going to take defensive. I don't think that the cornerbacks that are sitting there, you can necessarily say that the Cowboys would take. Now, yes, you have Emmanuel, I can't think of his name, Emmanuel something from Mississippi State, who is arguably a first-round corner, second-round corner, who could be sitting there. You also have the cornerback from South Carolina, Cam Smith, who could be the pick there. Those were the two that I went back and forth in my head, but then I thought to myself, you already have a number one corner, right? You already have Trayvon. You're going to re-sign Trayvon, and they brought over Stephon Gilmore. If we didn't bring over Stephon Gilmore, I think Cowboys draft a corner there. But I think that you have Stephon Gilmore being brought over from free agency, I think is easily your number 2, for sure your number 3 corner. But the thing is, to play in the slot, you got to be fast. And Gilmore did play in the slot in New England, but he also played a lot outside. So I think that I think he's going to pick outside. Like, I think that's exactly where he's going to play. Sorry, not where he's going to pick. He's going to play outside of Dallas. I think he's going to be Dallas' number 2. I think that's why you bring in a defensive tackle at this spot. Think about that one, Tanner.
I think it's fine. The only question I have about it though is like, does he fit with Dan Quinn's scheme? Because that was a common theme in these past couple drafts. Is Dan Quinn kind of picks the players that he wants, right?
Yep.
Is this a Dan Quinn kind of guy?
I think that if you came from Dabo Sweeney, you're a Dan Quinn kind of guy.
You know what?
My opinion.
Fair enough.
Yeah, because and I'll read you exactly what I have on him. And just the reason why I think Dallas is going to do, I'm pretty sure he was a 30 visit. So let me pretty sure he was.
first round grade on him. He had 13 sacks in 26 games. Is a primary defensive tackle. That's defensive tackle. Yes, he can also play end. That you literally brought it into my point. This is why I'm doing the podcast with you. He fits the mold of Dan Quinn. He can also play defensive end. Like, he didn't get all those sacks from the defensive tackle position. So, ask, is he a Dan Quinn player? He needs to be able to have the ability to go everywhere on the line. He needs to have the ability to run stop. He needs to have the ability to have the most passion that you can possibly have all the time coming out of college. And this kid has it, and he plays with passion. He had 17 quarterback hurries, so not a ton in 10 games, but that's pretty highly effective. And like I said, he lined up in the defensive tackle and defensive end position. But the knock on him is that he relies on his strength. So that's the only knock I have on him, is that he relies on his strength, and that's why he fell to the end of the late first round for me. But I love his patience, the anticipation he has as a player, and that's from what you got from Dabo. It's what he coaches, right? That's exactly what he coaches, is anticipation and patience. So you're having a prospect who is not going to wow you. You're getting the Xbox. You're kind of getting the Xbox controller, like I always say. He will probably sign a second contract for the Cowboys. I think he will be a sneaky good starter. I'm sorry, nobody's really a starter aside from like Micah on the defensive side when he lines up, because there's so many different combinations that Dan Quinn uses. But I think he fits in perfectly to that. And I think what you're drafting here at the end of the first round is you're drafting on potential. And there's a reason guys have fallen to the end of the first round. And then in the second round, they're usually missing a trait, right? In the third round, you're kind of drafting off of like potential. Fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh round, you're like, okay, I'm hoping these guys are going to start at some point, right? Like, that's kind of the approach that I go into it with. So that's kind of what I think with him. It's not a sexy pick. You know what I mean? It's not like, ooh, they're getting another corner, right? Like, it's not.
Yeah. But it's not. They're doing the dirty work in the places where you need.
Exactly. And if gosh, I can't believe I'm forgetting our safety's name. His name, A&M just signed Donovan Wilson.
There you go.
Donovan Wilson. When we signed Donovan Wilson, or if we didn't sign Donovan Wilson, a defensive back here, a safety, is very possible. Donovan. So there's no way you're going to put, Malik Hooker on the sideline, because he played way too well over the past couple of years. Like, you know what I mean? You can't put him on the sideline. So that's an option here too. So I'm giving I think that the Cowboys are going to go somewhere on the defensive side of the ball. I don't think a linebacker comes into play here in the first round. If they do, I'm going to be very angry. I don't have a first round linebacker in this draft, grade in this draft, which is crazy. Every other position I have a first round grade, but not in the linebacker position. Second round, third round, sweet spot for linebackers. Look for the Cowboys to potentially do something there.
What about like an offensive lineman?
I think the reason that they don't go offensive lineman here is because they got wiped out.
I see. Okay.
I think that's the reason that they don't go here, because you have Broderick Jones, who went at 22 to the Ravens, and I think that you have that kind of drop off with the offensive lineman at that point. Now, there's an offensive lineman from Tennessee who I keep seeing. I think it's Osiris. No, that Osiris is the kid out of Florida. Let me pull up my mock draft. I'm not going to give away my second round mock draft yet. But you have, Darnell Wright, the offensive tackle from Tennessee. I could see him being a possible pick there for an offensive lineman if Dallas goes that way. Or the offensive tackle, actually there's a couple they could go. Anton Harrison from Oklahoma. That's another one that I've seen go in the first round before. Then you have the bigger drop-off with Dawan Jones, the offensive tackle out of Ohio State. So if they want to go tackle, I think that's who they could go. If they want to go guard, good luck. A lot of guard in this draft. And the drop-off, like I said, is so much. And that's the thing about the offensive lineman. Where do you value those guys?
Right.
Right? If Dallas has a first-round grade on an offensive lineman, they're taking him over the defensive tackle. Importance of position. And they don't draft based off of need anymore. We saw that. They don't draft based off of need anymore. They draft whoever's going to be the best player and whatever the hell Dan Quinn says. That's how they draft right now. Right? And so
I don't see them getting an offensive tackle there. One, I think that we did lose offensive linemen in the draft, so there's in free agency, so there's an argument there. I don't know if pulls the trigger on an offensive lineman at the end of the first round. It could be an option though, and that's you've kind of opened my mind up thinking about it like that.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, if you take anywhere in the draft, it's going to be an offensive lineman in the first round. You're not taking a running back unless Bijan's there. You're not taking Jamar Gibbs out of Alabama. He's not. You're not going to take him at the end of the first round. I don't think teams valued as a they may have that Jamar Gibbs valued as a early second round pick, which, like I said, a lot of teams at the end of the first reach for that second round pick, right? So,
right, but would you
it could
reach
be
with
an
a running
option.
back, you know?
Exactly. And is Jamar Gibbs better than Tony Pollard? He's the exact same player as Tony Pollard. He's literally the exact same player. He's like, Tony Pollard reminds me of like Alvin Kamara almost coming out of college, because like his ability to just came out of Memphis he was more of a downhill runner than Alvin was. But I don't know. I think that it's like a really, really good player. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now we're moving on to what pick were we at? We just did the Cowboys.
So we're 27.
So 27 with the Bills. The Bills are going to take the first safety off of the draft. They're going to take first. Where did I go? I just lost my place. Oh no. Buffalo Bills taking Brian Branch, the defensive back out of Alabama. He's my only safety that has a first round grade. I know it's not the A&M safety. I'm sorry. But it is the it's the Alabama safety. He's the only one that I have a first round grade on. But I just see that fitting a position of need there. Like I get it with Hamlin and everything and what do they have? What's his name? Pryor. What's that safety's name that they have there? I can't think of his name. But regardless, I think that the Jordan Pryor, I think his name is. I think that's what Buffalo does, and I think it's a position they can't really pass up right there. A prospect they can't really pass up there. Then we jump to the Cincinnati Bengals at pick 28. I think that they take Nolan Smith, the defensive end out of Georgia. I think that's
to pair with Trey Hendrickson.
Yeah, I think that him and Trey are pretty similar in terms of player. Well, no, Nolan Smith's actually way more bendier and twitchier. I'd say Hendrickson. I watched an interview with him. No, that was Carl saying he ran like Waterboy, but I kind of think that Hendrickson runs like the Waterboy. But I think this is the Bengals take a reach here. But if Nolan Smith turns into be a number one pass rusher, you can't. And once again, you're not drafting him to be a number one pass rusher. You already have one. I think that that's why they take him here, and they learn exactly from what Tanner just said. They learn from him.
So let me pick your brain once more. So for the Bills, you gave them the safety out of Bama, right? So like they got Jordan Poyer. I just want to read you their safety room.
That's it, Jordan Poyer. That's the safety I couldn't think of.
They got Micah Hyde, right? Those are their two starting safeties.
Yep.
Taylor Rapp is backing up Jordan Poyer, and DeMar Hamlin.
I forgot that
is backing up Micah Hyde.
All right. So, you want to hear why I think he goes here?
Yeah.
I think that he played a lot more than most safeties do in the slot.
Okay.
So I think that they have him as a buddy that can be a safety blanket at times, but also almost like a slot corner. The last line of my scouting report on him, I project him as a slot cornerback in the NFL or safety that plays primarily in the slot.
Okay.
So that's why I have them going there. Now, do you value a slot corner round one? Probably not.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not. But you value a safety that has you value a safety that is so good at his position that he can also play slot. I think that you value that. Now, yes, when you talk about the safety room, yes, but here's my thing with Buffalo. I think that Buffalo not only pays in certain positions, like they got a lot of the cap tied up. You know what I mean? And I think that you have Poyer, who's getting older, who's also had some
think he missed for what he had, but I know he had a pretty severe injury. And then you said Taylor Rapp was there too. He's in the room as well. Taylor Rapp's gonna, not a starting one, but that's definitely not a bad one to jump in there. Maybe the Bills don't go safety there, but I still think that you could look at that depth chart and say that safety is technically a position of need when you look at the age and the contracts of those guys. And that's why I went that way. And obviously the ability to play in the slot. If you couldn't play in the slot, probably not. But I don't know. It just seems like such a Buffalo pick.
I think I'm fine with that. I mean, Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde are, I think, 32 and 31 respectively.
Okay. So they're not done yet, but
31
I don't
and
think
32
they.
respectively. But
Okay. I don't think they. Yeah, I would need to look at their contracts again. I don't think they have crazy contracts. So I don't know. I think it's just a cheaper option. I think that you have two pretty solid safeties right now, but learn from those guys, and those guys aren't always going to be there. And guess what? If in 2 years he hasn't started yet,
who cares?
and then and he's a first round, you can pick up the option on him. So you have 5 years.
Yeah.
First round players, you have 5 years. If they don't play for 2 years, it's fine. Not play, but play consistently for 2 years. But they're still getting coaching. They're learning the scheme. They're learning the system. They're learning everything. You know what I mean? And they're learning from those guys. Yeah,
I like it.
That's kind of why we got it there. We have the New Orleans Saints at 29. Corner that I was talking about just recently. They have Sam Smith, the cornerback out of South Carolina. He is a bit of a reach for me. I want to say I have a second round grade him. I'm pulling him up right now on my scouting report. I want to say I have a second round grade on the kid. He's not by any stretch of the means, but I have four corners that have the late second round grades for me. Tyreek Stevenson, the cornerback from Miami. Emmanuel Forbes, the cornerback from Mississippi State, who I was just talking about. Williams, the cornerback out of Syracuse, and Cam Smith, the cornerback out of South Carolina. Late second round grades for me. But cornerback is valued a lot higher, right? So you're going to have cornerbacks going a round early. You're going to have quarterbacks going 4 rounds early, right? Like, seriously, you're going to have quarterbacks going crazy early. Same with tight ends. You're going to have positions that are valued higher earlier because of what they bring to the table. And I think that Sam Smith brings that he's one of the fastest cornerbacks in the league. He ran a 4.43 at the combine. So kind of hard to argue. 4.43 speed, pretty solid. I have him saying that he can play in the slot or lineup. Did both in South Carolina.
How big is he?
What?
How big is he?
I don't have his measurables on me. If Smith does look like you can look it up, see how big he is. I don't know how big he is. On tape he doesn't look crazy big. He's had a really good combine. And I think that when you have a really good combine, you kind of raise your draft stock more toward second round, first round. If you get a good combine, it doesn't necessarily raise you a round, but it raises you from going the late second round to the mid second round to the early second round. So I think that he bumped himself up from being a late second round prospect to a mid second round prospect. And then I think with the value that teams value cornerback as, he himself up to technically an early second, which then you can justify as an NFL GM taking him in the late first.
What's his name?
Cam Smith, the cornerback out of South Carolina. And we have the Philadelphia Eagles here, who I already gave it away. I gave away the pick earlier. I tried not to, but I did. He's 6'1". Okay, so he's tall.
He's pretty tall.
That's actually very tall.
I didn't. 4.43. That's kind of impressive.
Yeah, 4.43 at 6'1". Yeah, he didn't look that big on tape. Didn't look that big at the combine, but hey, he's taller than me. I have the Eagles taking Mozzie Smith, the defensive tackle out of Michigan. I think it is a way too early pick. I have Mozzie in the third for me personally, but I think that
like we said earlier in the pod, Davis didn't show the ability to be a true 3-down defensive tackle. Don't think Mozzie Smith is going to step in and be that 3-down defensive tackle, but I think when you have two very young if you bring in two very young defensive tackles, two very young defensive ends as well, combo. And if they both hit, it's a great combo because you have your two defensive tackles or two defensive ends for the future. And I'm not saying that Mozzie Smith and Jordan Davis are going to be those guys for Philly. Pay either of them for 5 years, and that's a pretty good deal when you have those two run stoppers there. And like I said earlier in the pod, Philly prides themselves on stopping the run. And when you lost arguably the best free agent, you have to replace him somehow. And I think the Eagles do that in the first round.
Fair enough. Eagles pick.
To end the first round, the Kansas City Chiefs, pick 31, take Will McDonald IV, the defensive end out of Iowa State. Based off a need there, I don't think that the Chiefs are going to pull a trigger on a tight end. I don't think they're going to pull the trigger on an offensive lineman. First, I mean, they could. That's another option that the Chiefs could do. I feel like they always pick offensive linemen now. I feel like they should have two offensive lines now. But yeah, I just see that this player's not going to be there when they're there again, and I've seen him start to sneak into the first round on a couple mocks that I've seen, and I think that after his combine, he can sneak into the first round. Personally, I wouldn't take him in the first round. I have a second round grade on the player, mid-second, but like I said, you can jump him up there if it's a position of need. Played everywhere on the defensive line, except a gap, which is being a defensive tackle, which they don't need. They have Chris Jones, or do they have Chris Jones? Did Chris Jones get traded?
I think he's still on them. I think he's still on the
Is he
Chiefs.
still on them? I'm tripping. They got to still have Chris Jones. But still, like when you have a player of that caliber online, yes, I don't know what I'm thinking. I think I'm thinking of rumors. Yes, he's still there because we watched him in the Super Bowl. Now that I remember it, I think that you have Will McDonald, who's gonna not step in and do it, but he has great versatility. He's an edge rusher. Stats don't stand out really, but solid production. 28 sacks in 3 seasons. So that's not great numbers, but that's very, very solid each year in college in 3 seasons. And I love the way he kind of has tricks almost when he pass rushes. It's kind of fun to watch him pass rush. He's not a traditional pass rusher that I've seen. And yeah, I mean, he uses his length to get around the tackles, and I think that once again fits into the exact scheme of Andy Reid, or not Andy Reid, but the coaching of Andy Reid. I can't think of who their defensive coordinator is off the top of my head, but that would fit that mold of player. I think that's it. What do you think, Tanner? What do you think about the mock draft?
I think it was really good. I think a lot of the picks made a lot of sense. Philly had a really good draft.
Yeah.
Who else was there that had a nice one?
I think you can say that the Texans had a pretty solid one.
Yes, that's what I was thinking of. I mean,
Yeah.
if you get a starting quarterback and a starting receiver in the NFL in any draft, I think you're probably going to be one of the best teams in that draft.
Exactly.
Just draft.
Exactly. There we go. I only messed up on one of them, and realistically, I can go back and say I was just thinking Seattle was going to just get their duo for the time being. Definitely going to redo that pick. All right, folks, that's all we got for this week. We'll be talking about more sports in the coming weeks and everything. Tanner, it was great chatting. Let's do it again.
Before we go, let's look and see who won.
Oh yes, because we're still doing the pod.
Let's look and see who won.
The Bulls were playing
the Raptors.
Who were they playing? The Raptors.
Yes, and the Bulls won.
Oh.
By 4.
Oh, so it was a close game.
It was.
So
was that game at the end?
Was that a do or die for the Bulls?
This was a 9th and 10th place. So yeah, the loser of that is out. So the Raptors
Bulls made it into the playoffs.
Bulls. I think they have to play the loser of the Thunder. No, they have to play the loser of. Let me see. They have to play the loser. This is why
Tanner does the basketball.
Of the Hawks and the Heat, who was the Heat. So they have to play the Heat now.
I got the Heat in that one.
I think. Is that right?
Like,
Yeah,
I got the Heat in that one if they
Yeah.
play them.
that's right.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely take the Heat in that one. Well, next pod, Tanner's going to talk about more NBA.
Heck yeah.
There's not going to be a UFC card. There's not going to be golf, but I'm going to go into probably the second round mock, but we'll talk about more prospects. And we have the NFL draft coming soon. So we're going to recap the draft. I'm going to grade each team, grade their picks and everything. It's going to be a blast. So Tanner, officially do it again next week.
Officially. It was fun.